For over a year, we have been gathering together to form a crypto project unlike anything else before. The goal is to use NFTs to crowdfund a massive expedition sailing vessel, outfit it with all the right gear, and then invite a constant stream of artists, musicians, and amazing leaders from all over the planet to sail the world and co-create content that shifts people's lives, and to use the blockchain to tokenize the whole thing and share the value of the project with the world. Now, our wish list for the perfect vessel for the project seemed almost impossible. But now, through a series of synchronistic events, it looks like we may have just found our perfect vessel. And we're inviting everyone in our community to come take a look at it together. It's Antarctic and Arctic capable, so we can actually prove to the flat earthers whether the earth is flat or not. It's huge, epic, and majestic. It has enough autonomy to take us all over the world into the most secluded natural spaces. And through the freakish power of universal manifestation, it looks almost exactly like the NFTs we created to fund the entire adventure. Now, for some reasons, which you're about to discover, some people in the project think this is crazy, but this just might be the perfect boat that will allow us to turn our vision into reality. Dive into the Sail the Stars update to get the full story and let us know what you think. Hey guys, I am back from Mexico. I am no longer on a sunny beach with a palm tree. I am in Spain on a mountain in my house and it's freezing and I can't wait to get on the water and go sailing with you guys. And so in this video, I am finally getting into a very cool update where I'll be talking about what I'm passionate about most, which is boats, sailboats, and sailing, and sharing with you a boat that has come up on our radar, which may very well be our Dreamship, the perfect boat for the project. And so I'm going to be sharing that with you and the story behind this, because we are about to actually see this boat in April, hopefully next month, and we're inviting everybody in our community to do it with us. And I'm going to be sharing you in this video the parameters and the backstory of that and what we're actually looking for in a perfect boat, so you can understand why I'm excited about this boat in particular. And the other purpose of this video will be to it's an ask is basically from me, say, please talk me out of this. If you think I'm crazy, then please talk me out of this idea. A few people, really resonate with this boat and this type of idea for the project. Some people do not. So if you think I'm crazy, let me know, because part of me thinks I am. But this boat has captured my heart, and something is just speaking to me about this, and so I'm going to share it with you here today. And if you don't know anything about boats, don't worry. I'm going to take this step by step to bring you into this world, so you understand more of what we're actually looking for in a boat. What we're looking for in a boat for the Sail the Stars project is reliability and the ability for it to be an expedition, a long-term expedition cruiser that can have many people on board, and for it to be safe. This is most important. Safety is number one for us. Now, boats come in all kinds of various shapes and sizes, right? But there is a difference between a sailboat that is designed for short-term voyages, like a pleasure cruiser, something that is designed for long-term voyages, which is typically called a blue water sailing vessel, something that's designed, for a couple or a small crew to go out there on long voyages, cross oceans, etc. That's a different class. And then there's an entirely different class altogether, which I knew very little about before I started this project. Although I knew that it must exist, but it's a boat that's actually designed for large expeditions, meaning the ability to have many people on board and to go out there for a very long time, possibly indefinitely, with large distances, large spaces of time between resupplying. That's what we're looking for with Sail the Stars, because what we're trying to do, what we're aiming to do, is to create an environment where we sail around the world on leg to leg from different journeys on an epic yacht, where we constantly invite musicians, artists, poets, visionaries, leaders, thought leaders, authors, just incredible people with messages to share with the world, and to use the environment and the incubator creative space, that environment, and the challenge of sailing, the adversity of that, to create amazing messages to share with the world. And for that to be a very beautiful, safe, warm, inspiring environment for everybody. So that was the vision. And we have a whole wish list of what we actually want in the boat. And since the very beginning, we've started looking at boats. And thank you very much, Peter Wishmore. You've been a great help. You've been constantly listing boats in the boat shopping channel, a few other members of the team as well. And we've been looking at boats all over the world in various different price ranges to really see what's out there, what's possible. And then through a series of synchronistic events, somebody amazing came onto our team. Peter Madej, who I hope to make another video about this meeting soon. Peter is the founder of arcticyachts.com. He just happened to be in Valencia in Spain and connected with me. And I picked up the phone, called him, like, hey, I gotta meet you. We're doing this amazing project. He's like, yeah. So I drove up there, had dinner with this guy, and he hopped onto our team as an advisor. Now, Peter is, he sails out into the Arctic for a living every year, like most of his time, bringing people on expeditions in various expedition sailboats to film polar bears. He takes filmmakers out there, like people like from National Geographic, Discovery Channel, expert filmmakers to shoot movies out in the Arctic. And so I sat with him, and he gave me a wealth of knowledge of what we could add to our wish list, what to actually look for in the boat. And he hopped on our advisory board. And since I met him, he's been an amazing friend and given me a lot of advice. And he's been sending boats my way to consider for the project. And that with his experience, these recommendations I don't take lightly. Because, like I said, he does this for a living. He's got over 200,000 nautical miles under his belt of experience. This guy is a pro expedition captain. And he sent me a boat one day that I thought was kind of like a joke. And here it is. It's called the Sir Robert Baden-Powell. It actually happened to be in Spain. And I looked at this and I said, no way. I mean, it's just, I laughed at it. Because from the very, very beginning, I have said to everybody in the project, we are considering many boats, but there's one thing we will not do. We will not go for an old-fashioned double-masted schooner with gaff-rigged sails. So for those of you who don't know, a schooner is something with two masts, typically, that are the same height. And a gaff rig is the opposite of a modern-day trysail. It's basically has these two booms instead of one boom. I don't even know what the top one is called, but it looks like one of these really old school tall ship pirate ships, right? Like this. And so I said, we're going to go for anything but that because it's too old school. It takes too much work. I don't know. I just don't like it. But I saw this picture of this boat and I decided just to show it to my girlfriend. And I showed it to her and she said, wow, it's beautiful. That's the one. I just feel it. That's the boat you're going to get for the project, or a boat like this. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? This is crazy. I just laughed it off. But one thing that I've learned over the past few years of my life is to definitely listen to feminine intuition. So there's a part of me that was like, well, why does she think that? So we were doing an ayahuasca journey a week later, or a few days later, I think. And these days, typically I use ayahuasca as psychedelics to really tune deeply into myself, to get clarity on issues and inspiration to clear and heal the parts of me that I require to heal, to move faster along my journey and in my mission. And so there we were in this beautiful ayahuasca ceremony. And the first thing that happens for me, or like the entire ceremony, just turned into this overwhelming realization that I have to take a look at this boat. It just was there, like sailing towards me. And I got all these downloads on how it's just absolutely perfect, and just to trust the universe and just look into it because you'll be surprised. And so I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And I'll share with you what I discovered. Because I started to looked into our checklist, and actually got on a call with the owners, and we scheduled a time to actually look at the boat. And ever since then, it's just been resonating in my heart, and I keep seeing it as the Dreamship mothership of the project. Now, before I get into the specifics, the really cool thing that I keep tripping on, guys, is it looks almost exactly like the Dreamship art that we created. Now, keep in mind the Dreamship NFTs, we never planned those to be like the boat, that we go sailing in. We just thought, okay, we'll create a boat in the NFT that looks majestic, that represents the epic scope of the vision of the project. We want to go with a majestic tall ship. That's what it's going to look like. So we created this template. Now I'm just going to take the template and compare that to a picture of the ship. Okay. It looks almost identical, other than the fact that it's not a complete tall ship. It's actually a topsail schooner. So it's half tall ship, half schooner with these gaff rig sails. It's got the bowsprit, which is almost the same length as in the picture. It's got that netting around the bowsprit, which people can go and sleep in and rest in. I mean, how wild is that? The power of manifestation. So before we get, looking at the boat and the pictures, let me tell you what we're actually looking for in terms of the parameters in looking for a sailboat. And some of the problems we've run along the way in looking for boats like these. And I'll share with you also what I've learned from Peter, who added to this discussion greatly. So the main thing that I may have already mentioned that we're looking for in the boat for the project is it has to be expedition ready, meaning it can't be a pleasure cruiser. It has to have all the right gear and equipment to support our needs, so we can go on long-term voyages and support the crew on long passages. So if we want to cross an ocean, and that's going to take 4 or 6 weeks, maybe if we're crossing the whole Pacific, maybe even longer, well, we want to be able to do that. If we're just going somewhere for 7 days, we want to be able to do that as well. And we want to be able to be away from civilization without having to refuel fuel or water for a very long time. So that's very, very important. And the other thing that we're looking for is for the ability to sleep a large amount of people. There's a lot of sailing shows out there who are very successful, but again, they're operating in these small pleasure craft kind of blue water cruisers usually that can comfortably sleep 4 to 5, maybe more people. And that's cool, but we want to have more. We want to have the ability to have 12 or more people on board, so we can really go out there as a massive team. We want to have our camera team. We want to have the hardcore team committed to taking care of the boat at times. We want to have the guests we bring on board, the speakers, the people who are there to co-create content with us, who may be there for shorter amounts of time. We want to have that versatility. That's a big part of the vision. And we want to be able to sleep those people comfortably. And this is where we have run into problems looking at boats, because a lot of people don't know, but most boats are just designed to be pleasure cruisers, and they're like in the 50-foot range. And most people who have lots of money and they design bigger boats, they're just like, well, I just want a bigger boat for myself. And so they build these massive boats. They're like 100, even 150 feet, but all they are is just bigger versions of the small thing. They still only have, like, for example, look at this boat that has popped up recently, this incredible boat. It's huge. I think it's about 70 to 80 feet. It can go 25 knots. It's really fast. It's got all this like modern equipment, and yeah, it can like sleep 5 or 6 people from what I saw. It's just not, like, that's a waste of space. So that was really frustrating when we started looking at big boats. So we want that. We want to be able to sleep a lot of people. The next thing is we want to have scuba gear, dive compressors on the boat, all that equipment, because we want to be scuba diving. We want to be shooting a lot of underwater amazing footage and taking people scuba diving and just getting into that whole world. That's very important. Then we want to make sure that we have satellite internet on board. So we need to have enough space in the back to actually put our satellite internet dome and mount it. And we want to have the right batteries to keep that thing powered. And this, I thought maybe was a little bit crazy, putting it on the wish list back over a year ago. But we want the boat to be Arctic and Antarctic capable, meaning the ability to go into these icy, really cold areas and go film some polar bears or whatever. And for that, well, there are a couple things that are actually required. First of all, the boat has to be really seriously well maintained, because you're not messing around. And two, we have to have not to not the boat cannot be overly reliant on automatic electric winches and electric equipment that is outside that can freeze and usually does in those kind of cold environments. So when you're going to the Arctic and the Antarctic, it narrows down the class of boat that can do that. And yeah, we want that. And then another very, very important factor, which didn't come in until later when we started to look at these boats, is we realized the boat has to have soul. It has to be homey. You know, for many people involved in the project, including myself, this is going to be home, and it's going to be home for a very long time. Like personally, I'm planning on cutting my ties with land and being out in the ocean for like an indefinite amount of time. This is going to be a place where we need to have a comfortable living environment, to have families on board, children on board sometimes, and it's a place of co-creation, of creating lifelong memories together. So it has to be someplace that just feels like home. There's a lot of these like modern boats out there we've looked at that like are really cool, but I just couldn't imagine like living in it for a long term. We have to have the ability or to have space for people to have quiet downtime away from people, because the first thing you realize when you're on a boat with a lot of people is you want some privacy sometimes, and you just need to get away to get into your own space. That's very important. If we actually want to realistically achieve our long-term vision, we need that. Otherwise, people will go insane. So that's very important. The boat also has to be turnkey. And this is super important, meaning the ability for us to purchase it and just go without spending months on refitting the boat. And this is a big pit hole that a lot of people fall into when they buy boats. They'll buy a boat that's like maybe cheaper a little bit and be like, wow, I got a good deal on the boat. Yeah. And you have to spend another 6 months and another $1 million to refit the boat. Congratulations. And this happens all the time. And this is something that I learned a lot about from Peter in my discussion with him, as he really grilled into me of how important that is and what that's all about and how shipyards work, all this stuff that I'm so glad that, he came onto our team to tell us about. The next thing, which I've already mentioned, but this is now a real separate emphasis, is autonomy. The ability for the boat to actually be self-autonomous, meaning it doesn't need to resupply for very long periods of time. Now, on typical blue water cruisers, and when it comes to water, you don't typically worry about that because you have something called a water maker. So you can turn the salt water in the ocean into actual drinking water, shower water, bathing water, and you can do that fairly quickly. It does take power, but you can do it. So, that's already fully autonomous. But one thing that's going to drastically lower your autonomy is fuel storage and part storage. And this is very important. You need to have a lot of room for spare parts, or you just need to have less shit that breaks, right? And so if you have less storage, you can't go out there for long periods of time. So ideally, lots of storage for spare parts and lots of storage for fuel, so you don't have to resupply. So you can go out into the world and not have to get fuel for hopefully months at a time. And that's something that I feel is very important during this time on the planet right now. As you know, the world is going absolutely batshit crazy, and there's new stipulations and regulations and entry requirements and all kinds of stuff in every single country as we're going through this incredible global transition. So we want to have the ability to just head out there and not have to go back to port. And really, when we are talking about this class, we're going to be spending a lot of time away from civilization, far away from civilization, in really secluded nature areas. That's the vision. That's what I'm really excited about. And for that to happen, something I've already mentioned is we need to have the boat set up in a way where getting replacement parts is fairly easy. Now, what actually happens in the sailing world is typically every few years, like tons of new equipment comes out in all kinds of categories: electronics, navigation, sailing, rigging, so many different categories. And it's like every few years, this equipment changes. And what you find very often is you buy a boat and down the line, you want to like replace a water pump or this or that. And it's very hard to get that part because the manufacturer doesn't make it anymore, or the people in your local area don't make it anymore. So it's very important, if you want autonomy and you want to be an expedition cruiser, you have to factor that in and look at the kind of parts that are actually involved on your boat and the systems that are going into it. So these are all things to look at. So that's the list of everything we're looking for in a boat. we put that out there, and I had no idea that a boat like this could even exist. And then along comes this boat. This is the Sir Robert Baden-Powell. It is a double-masted, topsail gaff-rigged schooner. It is 42 meters in length. That's 130 feet. And it can sleep a maximum, I've been told, of 25 people on board. Now, guys, before I show you any more pictures, you just have to understand the size of this thing, because a lot of people who I show these pictures to, they're like, wow, this is a cool boat, but it's kind of small, don't you think, for the project you're considering? I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, pictures don't do this thing justice. So just take a look at this. This is a picture of this boat in port, okay? That's the Sir Robert right there in the center, and then off to the right is like a ferry that can have 2 cars on it, probably, and like, I don't know, 30 or 40 passengers. Okay, I don't know where this is, maybe in Spain or Italy or somewhere in Europe. And there behind you have like a 7-story apartment building, right? And here's like another ferry thing, and there is the Sir Robert. Okay, it's big. Okay, it's not small. So please don't call it small. It's big in comparison to most things out there. It's also beautiful. It just has this charm to it, this like classic beauty. It's something just glows about it in my heart that I couldn't describe. So after my deepening realization about this boat, this feeling, and just looking at the specs, I decided to give the owner a call and to start looking, seriously at this boat, or just to consider it. And so we got on the call, and I started talking about the boat and just asking the owner a whole bunch of questions. And he's just a sweet older guy. Basically, they've had this boat their entire lives, the owner and his wife, and they're getting ready to retire. They're getting just too old for this stuff, and they need to sell it to retire. And they have lived on this boat for 25 years and taken really good care of it, because it's been their livelihood. They have used this boat as a charter business. So they've been taking guests out on the sea for 25 years. It has crossed the Atlantic 7 times on various long voyages. And I started asking all these questions about the boat. Well, can it do this? Can it do that? Can it do that? And, ding, 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 ding. Everything was just checking, ticking off all the boxes, right? And we left on a really good note when I was talking to the owner, because I at first I was kind of like hesitant to share our project, because we're just getting the crowdfunding ready. I told him about what we're doing, and he's like, wow, that sounds amazing. Like, can I come with you guys? This is exactly like the type of thing I'd love to do. So it was really good vibes. And the boat is just beautiful and has been speaking to my heart ever since I started looking at it. The boat has really large autonomy. It has, I believe, 7,000 liters of diesel on it. So we could run the diesel engines basically for like a month nonstop and not run out of fuel. Now, typically when you go out there, you don't need to run it that long, if you're just charging batteries. So it has a lot of fuel autonomy, which gives us the ability to be out there for a very long time. That's one really good thing. It has really good fuel, water storage. It has a lot of space, and it can sleep 24, 25 people if you fill it to the brink. If you fill it to the rims, obviously we wouldn't need to do that, but that's an option, right? So you got all these amazing rooms. Here's the thing. It's entirely manual. And this is crazy. Like, there's not a winch, not a single winch on the boat. Old school stuff that never breaks. So if we're looking at going to Antarctica or the Arctic, well, now we can do that in this boat, because we don't have electric winches. We don't even have anything mechanical on board. It's all just like this old school style pirate ship stuff where you could just like tie lines off, and on like wooden blocks and around. I mean, I still can't really quite comprehend that, but it's possible with this boat. It has really cool living areas that just have this charm to it, and it's classy. And I mean, we could make a few modifications to it, but it's cool. So this meets that other requirement of being really homey. It has full-on dive equipment, scuba tanks, dive compressor, fully on board. Has 3 engines, 1 main engine, 2 generators on board. So it's like fully decked out in that area. like really awesome galley, dishwasher, laundry, dryer, all these systems are already on board. It's just full on turnkey expedition cruiser. I mean, I could talk more about the specs of the boat, but guys, just look at her. Just look at this beautiful boat. You know, can you imagine all of us sailing together, and we just like arrived and anchored on this like beautiful little bay with this crystal blue water, and we're diving off the boat, and we've got our guests on board, and we're broadcasting the episode for the week from that boat. And then, just like inviting people from the beach to come on board to the nighttime music entertainment that night that we're putting on, and we're broadcasting to YouTube or wherever we're doing at the same time. I mean, just imagine that, I mean, how cool is this thing? It's just like super, super majestically dope. And I've never used that word, but I have to use that word. It's just, I love it. It's starting to speak to me. And if we look back over the list of everything I mentioned, is it expedition ready? Yep. Can it sleep a large amount of people? Yep. Does it have scuba gear? Yep. It has all that stuff on it. Can we easily put the satellite on it, internet on it? Yeah, no problem. It's actually got the perfect battery set on there for that. Can we go to the Antarctic and the Arctic? Yes, we can. It's a steel hull also, so we can do that. Is there a space for a workshop on board? Yes, there's space for a workshop as well. I didn't mention that before, but that's a critical aspect of being autonomous, having a workshop on board. Is it homey? Does it have soul? Well, yeah, definitely. It does have that. Do you have enough space so people can have space? Yeah, one of these rooms can easily be like a quiet room, on board. Is it turnkey? Yeah, pretty much. Does it have autonomy? Yes, it does. Is it easy to get replacement parts for the boat? Well, it doesn't really have many modern parts because it's just old school stuff that never breaks. So that crosses that off the list. That might be a huge money saver, long term with the boat. So that's the Sir Robert, guys. Let me know what you think about this boat and tell me what you feel. Let me know if I'm crazy. What I'm proposing is that we actually, as a team, go to Spain in Mallorca, where it is right now, those who can, and we go look at this boat in April and check it out for ourselves with our own eyes and see if it's the perfect boat for us. And if if you love the boat, let me know. And let's do this, guys. Let's make this NFT launch happen. Let's crowdfund this boat in whatever way we can, or a boat like this, because this vision is just freaking wild. I love it, and I love getting closer to it every single day. Love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you in another video.